in a swanky Seattle restaurant. I stood clutching my divorce letter as I watched my wife laugh with another man. Her infidelity was just the tip of the iceberg. What I had learned about her lover had shattered everything she believed in. Tonight, the truth will come out, and no one will come out of it unscathed. Are you ready for a story where lies crumble and revenge is cold and precise? Seattle's rain-slicked streets shimmered under the April sky, a fitting backdrop for the life Jake Harper thought he'd mastered. At 38, he was a rising star among architects, designing towers that pierced the Pacific Northwest clouds. His wife, Emily, 36, curated avant-garde exhibits at a downtown gallery, her charm lighting up every room. Their queen and home was a haven for their two kids, Lily and Max, filled with the chatter of family dinners and the glow of weekend movie nights. To outsiders, the Harpers were the dream, polished, happy, untouchable. But dreams have a way of cracking. Jake felt it first in the silences. Emily's laugh, once a melody he could hum by heart, grew rare at home. She'd linger over her phone, her fingers dancing across the screen, then tuck it away when he entered the room. "Just work," she'd say, her smile tight, her eyes darting to the side. Jake wanted to believe her. He'd built his life on trust, on her. But the excuses piled up. Late nights at the gallery, sudden client dinners, a weekend trip with old friends he'd never met. Each one chipped away at the foundation of their 13-year marriage. He tried to bridge the gap. He'd plan date nights, reservations at their favorite waterfront bistro, a rare evening without the kids. Emily would nod, dress up, even hold his hand across the table. But her gaze drifted to the window, as if searching for something beyond the glass. Jake felt like he was grasping at a ghost. "Is everything okay?" he'd ask, his voice soft, afraid of the answer. "Of course," she'd reply, too quick, too bright. He'd nod, swallowing the unease, telling himself it was just a phase. Marriages ebb and flow, don't they? Yet the signs grew louder. One night, as he folded laundry, he found a receipt in her coat pocket, a coffee shop he didn't know, 2 lattes, a date when she claimed to be at a solo exhibit. His stomach twisted, but he tucked it away, not ready to face what it might mean. Another evening, Lily, their perceptive 8-year-old, tugged his sleeve. "Why's Mommy always gone?" she asked, her brow furrowed. Jake forced a grin, ruffling her hair. "She's just busy, kiddo." But the question lingered, heavy as the fog rolling off Puget Sound. Jake wasn't blind. He noticed a new perfume, sharp, unfamiliar, not a gift from him. He saw the way Emily's wardrobe shifted, sleeker dresses, bolder heels, as if she were dressing for someone else's eyes. He hated himself for noticing, for letting doubt creep in. This was Emily, the woman who'd cried in his arms when Max was born, who'd danced with him in their kitchen to no music at all. But that woman felt like a memory, slipping further away each day. He threw himself into work, sketching blueprints late into the night, hoping exhaustion would drown the questions. But they clawed at him. Was she unhappy? Was it him? Had he missed something vital, some signal she'd been sending for years? He replayed their life, every fight, every quiet moment. They'd had rough patches, sure, but nothing catastrophic. Or had he been too busy building skyscrapers to notice their home crumbling? One rainy afternoon, he left the office early, hoping to surprise Emily with takeout from her favorite Thai spot. Her gallery was closed. The sign flipped to back tomorrow. Odd for Wednesday. He texted her, casual. "Hey, where you at? Grab dinner." No reply. An hour later, her message pinged. At a client meeting, running late. Rain check. He stared at the screen, the lie glaring back. She wasn't at work. He knew it in his bones. That night, he sat in their darkened living room, the kids asleep upstairs, a glass of bourbon untouched in his hand. The receipt from the coffee shop burned in his pocket. He could confront her, demand answers, but what if he was wrong? What if he was paranoid, tearing apart their life over nothing? Or worse, what if he was right? The thought was a knife, cold and precise. He needed proof, not just hunches. Jake wasn't a detective, but he was meticulous, trained to see patterns in chaos. He started small, checking her social media for clues, new followers, vague posts about new beginnings. Nothing concrete, but enough to fuel his suspicion. Then he accessed their shared bank account, scrolling through transactions. A withdrawal caught his eye, $5,000, transferred to an unfamiliar account. Gallery supplies, the note read. But Emily hadn't mentioned any big purchases. His pulse quickened. He didn't sleep that night. By morning, he made a call to an old college friend, Matt, now a private investigator. "I need you to look into someone," Jake said, his voice low, ashamed of the words. Discreetly, Matt didn't pry, just asked for Emily's schedule. Jake hated himself for it, spying on his wife, the mother of his kids. But he couldn't unsee the signs, couldn't silence the voice whispering that his world was about to implode. 2 days later, Matt sent a photo. Emily, in a sleek black coat, stepping into a Belltown cafe with a man. Tall, sharp-suited, his hand grazing her elbow. They were laughing, her face brighter than Jake had seen in months. The timestamp matched another client dinner. He stared at the image until his vision blurred, rage and grief colliding in his chest. This was real. She was slipping away. No, she was already gone. But who was he? The man's face was clear, his smile practiced, predatory. Jake didn't know him, but he'd find out. He forwarded the photo to Matt with one line, "Dig deeper." Something told him this wasn't just an affair. There was a pattern here, a shadow he couldn't yet name. Emily wasn't just betraying him. She was walking into a trap. And Jake, for all his pain, wasn't ready to let her fall alone. Not yet. Jake Harper's world was unraveling, thread by thread, and he couldn't look away. The photo from Matt, his private investigator friend, burned in his mind. Emily, radiant, leaning toward a stranger in a Belltown cafe. Her smile, so bright, so foreign, haunted him. For 13 years, he'd thought he knew her every expression, but this one wasn't for him. It was for the man with the sharp suit and sharper grin, his hand brushing her arm like he owned her. Jake's chest tightened, a storm of rage and grief brewing, but he didn't break. Not yet. He needed answers, not just about Emily's betrayal, but about the shadow behind it. He sat in his home office, the Seattle skyline a blur through the rain-streaked window. The kids, Lily and Max, were asleep upstairs, their soft snores a fragile anchor to the life he was fighting to understand. Jake opened his laptop, pulling up the photo again. The man's face was clear, mid-30s, polished, with eyes that gleamed like a shark's. Matt's initial report was thin, no name yet, just a license plate from the car they'd left in. But Jake wasn't waiting. He cross-checked the cafe's location with Emily's calendar, confirming another gallery meeting lie. His fingers hovered over her contact, itching to call, to demand the truth. Instead, he texted Matt, "Find out who he is. Now." The next morning, Emily was all routine, pouring coffee, packing Lily's lunch, kissing Max's forehead. "Big day?" Jake asked, his voice steady despite the pulse hammering in his throat. She glanced up, her hazel eyes flickering. "Just the usual," she said, tucking her phone into her purse. "New exhibit prep." He nodded, swallowing the urge to grab the phone and scroll through her secrets. As she left, her perfume, new, biting, lingered like a taunt. He watched her car disappear down Queen Anne's leafy streets, then called Matt. "Anything?" Matt's voice was grim. "Got a name? Nate Carver. Real estate investor, or so he claims. No criminal record, but his digital footprint's too clean, like it's curated. I'm digging into his finances." Jake's jaw clenched. Too clean meant deliberate. He thanked Matt and hung up, his mind racing. Emily wasn't just cheating. She was tangled with someone who knew how to hide. Over the next few days, Jake became a ghost in his own life. He smiled for the kids, grilled burgers for dinner, read bedtime stories, but his thoughts were elsewhere, piecing together a puzzle he dreaded solving. He checked their bank account again, finding another transfer, $7,000 this time, labeled consulting fee. Emily hadn't mentioned hiring anyone. He printed the statement, tucking it into a locked drawer with the coffee shop receipt. Each clue was a brick in the wall he was building, one that would either protect him or bury them all. Matt's next update came at midnight, a text, "Call me. It's bad." Jake slipped onto the balcony, the city's hum drowning out his pounding heart. "What did you find?" he asked, voice low. Matt didn't sugarcoat it. "Nate's a con man. No real estate deals, just shell companies. He's been linked to 3 women in Portland. Same pattern. Charms them, drains their accounts, vanishes. Emily's his latest mark." Jake's grip tightened on the railing. "Proof," he rasped. "Bank records, emails. You got her hooked, Jake. She's wired him 20 grand already." 20 grand. The number hit like a punch. Emily wasn't just betraying him. She was throwing their future into a black hole. But worse was the realization that she didn't see it. The woman who'd balanced their budget, planned their kids' college funds, was blind to this man's lies. Jake's anger shifted, mixing with pity. She was his wife, damn it, and some part of him still wanted to save her. But first, he needed to stop Nate. He spent the next night digging through Matt's files. Nate's playbook was slick, lavish dinners, promises of a glamorous life, fake investment pitches. One email to Emily, intercepted from a dummy account, made Jake's blood boil. "We'll start fresh, just you and me. Trust me, Eminesia, Eminesia." The nickname Jake used in their early days, now twisted by a stranger. Another detail chilled him. Nate had asked Emily to liquidate a joint savings account, $50,000, for a deal that didn't exist. She hadn't done it yet, but the request was dated yesterday. Time was running out. Jake's plan took shape. Confronting Emily now would tip Nate off, let him slink away. Instead, he'd play Nate's game, let him think he was winning. He called Matt again. "Can you trace his accounts? Freeze them." Matt hesitated. "That's tricky without cops. But I know a guy at the bank who owes me." "What else?" Jake's voice hardened. "Follow him. I want to know every move." The next evening, Emily announced a work trip to Tacoma. Jake didn't blink. "Have fun," he said, kissing her cheek, tasting the lie. As her car pulled away, he tracked her phone's location. Matt had shown him how. She wasn't headed to Tacoma, but to a swanky hotel downtown. Jake didn't follow. He didn't need to. Matt's text came an hour later. "Nate's with her. Room 1408. Got photos." Jake stared at the message, the final crack splitting his heart. But it wasn't despair driving him now. It was resolve. He met Matt at a dive bar near Pike Place, the air thick with salt and regret. Matt slid a folder across the table. "Nate's got a warrant in Oregon. Skip bail on a fraud charge. Cops here don't know yet, but I can tip them off." Jake flipped through the pages. Nate's aliases, bank transfers, a photo of him with another woman, his arm around her the same way it had been around Emily. "Do it," Jake said, "but not until I'm ready." Matt raised an eyebrow. "You're playing with fire, man." Jake didn't flinch. He started the blaze. "I'm just controlling it." Back home, Jake stood in the kids' room, watching them sleep. Lily clutched her stuffed whale. Max's comic book lay open on the floor. They deserved better than this mess. He thought of Emily, lost in Nate's web, and wondered when she'd stopped being the woman he loved. Or had she ever been? The question stung, but it fueled him too. Nate wasn't just stealing money. He was stealing their family. And Jake would make sure he paid. Tomorrow, Emily would be back, spinning more stories. Jake would smile, nod, play the part. But he was done being the fool. Nate thought he was untouchable, and Emily thought she was in love. They were both wrong. Jake locked the folder in his safe, his plan crystallizing. The restaurant, the divorce papers, the truth, it was all coming. And when it did, no one would walk away unscathed. Jake Harper had become a stranger to himself, a man forged in the crucible of betrayal. The Seattle rain battered his office window as he pored over the dossier on Nate Carver, the con artist unraveling his 13-year marriage. Photos, bank records, intercepted emails. It was a map of Emily's descent, each piece a shard of the life they'd built. $20,000 gone, wired to Nate's shell accounts. A plea to drain their savings, $50,000 more, still pending. And the worst, an email where Nate called her, promising a new life abroad. The intimacy of it gutted Jake, but also steeled him. This wasn't just an affair. It was a heist, and Emily was both victim and accomplice. He leaned back, the city's pulse faint beyond the glass. Lily and Max were to sleep over, their absence a hollow ache. Jake's plan was taking shape, but it demanded precision. Confronting Emily now would spook Nate. Let him slip away like he had in Portland, leaving other women broken. No, Jake wanted him cornered, exposed, ruined. And Emily, she needed to see the truth, not just hear it. He'd give her no room to dodge, no lies to hide behind. Matt, his private investigator, called it dawn. "Nate's sloppy," he said, voice rough from a night tailing him. "Met another woman last night. Same playbook, different mark. He's juggling Emily and her, pushing for bigger payouts." Jake's jaw tightened. "Proof." Matt sent a photo. Nate at a rooftop bar, his arm around a brunette, his smile a practiced weapon. "Got bank traces too," Matt added. "He's siphoning Emily's transfers to an offshore account. Cops are interested. Oregon warrants active." Jake's pulse quickened. "Hold off," he said. "I need one more move." That move was the restaurant. Emily had mentioned a client dinner tomorrow at the Sapphire Room, a waterfront spot where Seattle's elite flaunted their wealth. Jake checked the reservation. 2 names, Emily Harper and Nathan Carver. His stomach churned, but he saw the opening. It was perfect, public, elegant, a stage for truth. He called his lawyer, Sarah, a shark who'd handled his firm's contracts. "Draw up divorce papers," he said, voice flat. "Irreconcilable differences." Sarah paused. "You sure, Jake?" He wasn't, not entirely, but he couldn't stop now. "Do it." By noon, Jake had more. Matt's bank contact flagged Nate's accounts, frozen, pending an audit. A whisper to a detective friend ensured a warrant was ready, but Jake insisted on timing. He wanted Nate to walk into the trap, not bolt early. The divorce papers arrived, crisp in a manila envelope, their weight grounding him. He tucked them into his briefcase alongside Nate's dossier. Emails, transfers, the Portland warrant. Evidence not just a betrayal, but of a crime Emily had funded. He tested the waters that evening. Emily was home, scrolling her phone, her face lit by its glow. "Big dinner tomorrow?" Jake asked, casual, pouring wine. She stiffened, just a flicker, then smiled. "Yeah, gallery stuff. Boring, really." Her lie was smooth, practiced, but Jake caught the tremor in her fingers. "Sound important," he said, holding her gaze. She looked away, murmuring about art shipments. He let it drop, but the air crackled with unspoken truth. Later, alone, Jake stood in their bedroom, staring at a photo on the dresser. Him, Emily, the kids at Cannon Beach, wind-tangled and laughing. He barely recognized that family. When had Emily drifted so far? Had he pushed her there, burying himself in blueprints while she drowned in routine? The questions gnawed, but they didn't change facts. She'd chosen Nate, chosen lies. And Nate had chosen her money, her trust, her future. Jake's pity for her warred with his anger. But one thing was clear. Neither deserved his silence. Matt's final report landed at midnight. Nate had booked a flight to Vancouver, one way, 2 days from now. A hotel receipt showed he'd reserved a suite for tomorrow, the night of the dinner, under an alias. Jake's blood ran cold. Nate was planning to vanish, likely with Emily's cash, maybe with her. A new twist emerged, an email where Nate hinted at leverage over Emily, something to keep her in line. Blackmail? Jake's mind raced. What did Nate have? Photos, threats? It complicated things. Emily wasn't just naive. She might be trapped. He met Matt at a diner near the waterfront, dawn painting the sound in grays. "He's escalating," Matt said, sliding over a USB drive. Recorded a call. "Nate's pushing her to sell your vacation home. Says it's for their future." She's hesitating, but he's got her scared. Jake listened to the audio, Nate's voice syrupy, manipulative. "You want this, Em? Don't let him cage you." Emily's reply was faint, conflicted. "I don't know, Nate." The kids. Jake's heart twisted. She was still his Emily, somewhere under the lies, but she was slipping away. He refined the plan. The Sapphire Room dinner would be the strike. He'd walk in, lay the divorce papers down, and expose Nate's game. Bank records, warrants, the other woman. If Nate bolted, the cops would be waiting, tipped off by Matt's detective contact. Emily would face her choices, no excuses. But the blackmail worried Jake. If Nate had dirt, he'd use it to dodge the fallout. Jake needed a counter. He called Sarah again. "Add a clause," he said. "If Emily fights the divorce, I want full custody." It was a bluff. He'd never cut her from the kids, but it gave him leverage. The day of the dinner dawned clear, Seattle's skyline sharp against the sky. Jake dressed slowly, choosing a charcoal suit, his hands steady despite the storm inside. He packed the dossier, the papers, his resolve. Lily ran in, hugging his legs. "You look fancy, Daddy," she chirped. He knelt, kissing her forehead, Max giggling behind her. "Just a work thing, kiddo," he lied, hating the taste. Their innocence was a lifeline, but it couldn't stop what was coming. As he drove to the restaurant, the city blurred past, ferries on the Sound, neon signs flickering to life. Emily thought she was steps ahead. Nate thought he was invincible, but Jake held the board. He wasn't just ending a marriage. He was dismantling a scam. Yet doubt lingered. What if Emily fought back, clung to Nate's promises? What if the kids paid the price? He pushed it down. The truth was his weapon, and tonight it would cut clean. Jake Harper stepped into the Sapphire Room, Seattle's waterfront gem, where chandeliers cast golden light over linen tables. The air hummed with clinking glasses and murmured wealth. But Jake's focus was singular. Emily and Nate, tucked in a corner booth, her blue dress catching the glow, his smile sharp as a blade. For 13 years, Jake had built a life with her. 2 kids, a home, a promise. Now, that life was ash, and he held the proof in a manila envelope. Divorce papers, bank records, Nate's criminal past. Tonight, he'd end their charade. He moved through the restaurant, pulse steady, charcoal suit crisp against the chaos inside him. Emily's laugh reached him first, bright and careless, a sound he hadn't heard at home in months. Nate leaned closer, his hand grazing her wrist, oblivious to the storm approaching. Jake's fingers tightened on the envelope. He'd planned this moment, every word, every step, since Matt's dossier exposed Nate as a con artist who'd bled Emily for $20,000, with 50 more in his sights. But it wasn't just money. Nate's emails hinted at blackmail, some leverage keeping Emily tethered. Jake would sever that tie. As he reached their table, Emily's eyes met his, and her face drained of color. The laugh choked off, her wine glass trembling in her hand. Nate froze, his practiced grin faltering. "Jake," Emily stammered, voice thin, What are you doing here?" He didn't answer, just set the envelope between her glass and Nate's plate, deliberate, like laying a trap. "Read it," he said, voice low, cutting through the restaurant's hum. Her fingers shook as she reached for it, but Jake's gaze shifted to Nate. "Stay seated. We're not done." Nate's eyes darted, calculating. "This a private matter, man. Let's not make a scene." Jake's lips twitched, a cold half-smile. "You made the scene, Carver. I'm just directing the finale." Emily tore open the envelope, her breath catching as she scanned the divorce papers. Her eyes widened, tears welling, but Jake wasn't here for tears. He slid a folder from his briefcase, Matt's dossier, and opened it. "Recognize this?" he asked, dropping a bank statement on the table. 20 grand, wired to your Shell account. "Nice pitch, Nate. What was it, real estate? Or just a ticket out of town?" Emily's head snapped to Nate, confusion cracking her shock. "What's he talking about?" she whispered. Nate's jaw tightened, but he tried charm, leaning back. "He's got it wrong, Em. This is a misunderstanding." Jake cut him off, tossing another page. An email from Nate to a Portland Mark. Same promises, same lies. "You've been busy," Jake said. 3 women before her, all drained dry. "Oregon wants you for fraud. Seattle's about to join them." The room seemed to shrink, Diner's chatter fading as Emily's world unraveled. She grabbed the email, her hands shaking. "Nate, tell me he's lying," she pleaded, voice breaking. Nate's mask slipped, his eyes flicking to the exit. Jake leaned in, voice like steel. "She wasn't enough for you, was she? You had another Mark last week. Rooftop bar, brunette. Same game." Emily gasped, a sob escaping, but Jake wasn't done. He dropped the bombshell. "And that leverage you've got on her? Whatever you're holding, it's over. I know about Vancouver, your flight tomorrow. Cops are waiting outside." Nate's face hardened, the predator cornered. "You're bluffing," he spat, but sweat beaded on his brow. Emily stared at him, betrayal dawning as she pieced it together. His promises, her money, the lies. "You used me," she whispered, tears streaming. Nate lunged to his feet, chairs scraping, but Jake stepped closer, voice lethal. "Run, and you'll hit a badge before the door." Nate hesitated, eyes wild, then bolted anyway, shoving past a waiter. Jake didn't flinch. Matt's detective friend was stationed outside, warrant in hand. Emily crumpled, clutching the papers, her sobs raw. "Jake, I didn't know," she choked. He said we'd start over." Jake's heart twisted, pity, anger, love, all tangled, but he held firm. "You chose him, Emily. Every lie, every dollar you sent, you chose." He pulled out the final page, Nate's email about blackmail, vague but damning. "He had something on you. What was it?" Her eyes dropped, shame flooding her face. "Photos," she murmured. "Us together. He said he'd ruin us, the kids." Jake's breath caught. She'd been trapped, yes, but she'd still walked into Nate's arms. "You could have told me," he said, voice quieter now, heavy with what they'd lost. "Instead, you burned us down." Emily reached for him, desperate. "Please, Jake, we can fix this." He stepped back, shaking his head. "This isn't fixable. Not anymore." The restaurant's glow felt mocking, her blue dress a cruel echo of their last anniversary. As he turned to leave, a commotion erupted outside, shouts, cuffs clicking. Nate caught. Jake didn't look back, but Emily's voice chased him, fragile, broken. "What happens now?" He paused, hand on the door. You face it, he said, not turning. We both do. The night swallowed him, Seattle's lights blurring through his windshield as he drove, the weight of truth, both freedom and chains. Emily sat alone, papers scattered, her world in ruins. And Nate, cuffed in a squad car, knew the game was over. Jake Harper drove through Seattle's neon veins, the sapphire room's glow fading in his rearview. The night clung to him. Emily's sobs, Nate's desperate sprint into handcuffs, the divorce papers left like a gravestone on her table. For 13 years, he'd anchored his life to her, to their kids, Lily and Max, believing love could weather any storm. Now, the storm had passed, leaving wreckage. Nate, the con artist who'd bled Emily for $20,000, was gone, his Vancouver escape thwarted by a warrant and Matt's tip to the cops. Emily, unmasked as both betrayer and pawn, sat alone in her ruin. Jake felt no triumph, only a hollow freedom. He pulled into their Queen and driveway, the house dark, its silence louder than the city's pulse. Inside, he poured a bourbon, untouched, and sank into the couch. Photos lined the mantel, Lily's gap-toothed grin, Max's first soccer goal, Emily's laugh at their beach house. That laugh was a ghost now, twisted by her lies, by Nate's promises of a life Jake couldn't give. He'd exposed them both, laid bare Nate's fraud and Emily's blackmail trap. Photos she'd feared would destroy their kids' world. But the victory was bitter. Truth hadn't rebuilt what they'd broken. Morning brought clarity, sharp as the Puget Sound's chill. Jake woke to Lily's voice, calling from her room. She'd stayed with a neighbor during his restaurant strike. He scooped her up, her warmth a lifeline, Max trailing with a sleepy hug. "Where's Mommy?" Lily asked, eyes wide. Jake's throat tightened. "She's sorting some things out, kiddo," he said, dodging a fracture. He'd shield them as long as he could, but the kids deserved a mother, not a myth. Emily's choices couldn't erase that. He met his lawyer, Sarah, at a downtown cafe, the divorce papers now filed. "She's not contesting," Sarah said, stirring her latte. "Wants joint custody, though." Jake nodded, unsurprised. Emily's shame ran deep. Her whispered confession about Nate's photos, her plea to fix things, echoed in his mind. He'd refused her then, but for Lily and Max, he'd bend. "Set up a meeting," he said. "Neutral ground. For the kids." Sarah's eyes softened. "You're doing the hard thing, Jake." He shrugged. Hard was all he had left. Emily's call came that afternoon, her voice fragile. "Can we talk?" "About them?" Jake agreed, naming a park near Pike Place, far from their tainted home. When he arrived, she stood by the waterfront, wind tangling her hair, no trace of the gallery polish she'd worn for Nate. Lily and Max ran ahead, chasing gulls, their laughter a fragile bridge between their parents. "I'm sorry," Emily started, eyes red. "I thought he was everything I'd lost, but I lost more." Jake studied her, seeing not the traitor, but a woman adrift. "You didn't just lose Emily," he said, voice steady. "You broke their trust. Mine. Fix that, not me." She nodded, tears falling, and handed him a letter. "I wrote this weeks ago. Never sent it." Jake took it, unopened, its weight a question he wasn't ready to answer. "I'm trying," she said. "Therapy classes, something to understand why she trailed off, glancing at the kids. Jake saw it then. Her fight wasn't for him, but for them. He didn't forgive her, couldn't, but he'd let her try. For Lily, who'd asked for Mommy. For Max, who'd notice her absence soon. Days blurred into weeks. Nate's arrest hit the news, fraud charges stacking up, his aliases splashed across headlines. Emily's name stayed out, a small mercy Jake had insured through Matt's contacts. She moved to a Belltown apartment, a fresh start, her gallery job gone under the scandal shadow. Jake kept the house, its rooms too big without her, but alive with the kids' chaos. He threw himself into fatherhood, coaching Max's team, braiding Lily's hair, answering their questions with half-truths. Mommy's working on herself, he'd say, hating the vagueness, knowing they'd learn more someday. One evening, he found Emily's letter in his desk, forgotten. He opened it, her handwriting jagged, raw. "I was drowning, Jake. Not in you, in me. Nate was a lifeline, but he pulled me under. I'll never forgive myself for what I did to us, to them. Let me be their mom, even if I can't be your wife." He folded it chest tight. She'd been lost, like he'd suspected, but her choices were hers. He wouldn't carry her guilt. A month later, they met at Lily's school play, a crowded auditorium buzzing with parents. Emily sat 2 rows back, clapping as Lily took her bow. Their eyes met, a nod shared, no warmth but no venom. Max tugged Jake's sleeve, pointing to Emily. "Can she come for pizza after?" he asked. Jake hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, buddy." They ate at a noisy diner, the kids chattering, Emily quiet but present. It wasn't family, not anymore, but it was something enough for now. Jake rebuilt slowly. Work steadied him, new projects rising like his resolve. He dated once, a coffee that felt wrong, too soon. The kids were his compass, their laughter his North Star. Emily kept her word, therapy, a part-time job, small steps toward redemption. She faltered sometimes, canceling visits, but showed up when it counted. Jake watched, wary but open, knowing trust was a bridge they'd never fully cross again. Nate's trial loomed, a distant thunder. Jake wouldn't testify. His evidence was enough, delivered through Matt. Justice would roll, clean and final, without his hands dirted. Emily faced her own reckoning, her mirror reflecting a woman who'd chased a lie and lost herself. She volunteered as shelter, her art now sketches for kids, not galleries. It wasn't atonement, but it was a start. Jake stood one night on his porch, Seattle's skyline twinkling, the sound whispering below. Lily's whale, plush, sat on the swing, Max's comic book forgotten nearby. The pain lingered, a scar beneath his skin, but it didn't define him. He'd lost a wife, a dream, but gained a truth. He was enough, for his kids, for himself. Emily was finding her way, and maybe she'd be enough too, someday. The future stretched, uncertain but unshackled, and Jake stepped toward it, one breath at a time.